With Tom's Cube Warlock, he has copies of Doomguard in the deck, and what that means is a card, Possessed Lackey, won't guaranteed pull a Void Lord when it dies. Sometimes it will pull a Doomguard. That little bit of advantage that Surrender can get from that outcome means that sometimes he will have the aggression to simply push through. Yep. If this was a traditional control Warlock, he would be banning it, I believe. But since it's that Cube Warlock, he gets that little bit of extra edge. But already, right away, this is the one I want to talk about, the major difference in the lineup. Tom is bringing Jade Druid, and Surrender has brought Aggro Druid to the table. Jade Druid, in my opinion, has been the deck of the tournament that's so important to people's lineups. It needs to get a win. And against aggressive decks, it definitely can struggle in that spot. However, Tom has brought the Oaken Summons Ironwood Gold.
Yeah, which is slightly better against the aggro versions. But Jade Druid's still floating underneath a 50% win rate throughout the event, so it still is going to be a tough matchup. And like you said, it's going to be crucial that Tom finds a win. And for his sake, he wants to find a win early, because that makes the rest of this match easier for him. But starting off, patches drawn for Surrender, not what he wants to see. But he does have some good stuff to scale up the early curve. Coin plus Elven Minstrel allows Surrender to sort of get that resource advantage that you sort of need once this game starts to go on. But a lot of times against Jade Druid, you'd rather have early pressure.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think he's going to have enough of at the beginning of this game, especially with Tom's draw, which seems to be quite strong.
It definitely is. The early ramp, I think, is quite important to this matchup. To be unlocking card draw prior to having to defend yourself is a very important deal. And Surrender, lacking that little bit of early pressure, sometimes you could be possibly seeing a coin South Sea Captain in the spot and then Surrender starting to push the damage. Instead, because he's got both Elven Minstrels in hand and he's got the Cobalt Scalebane, he's going to simply look to fortify his position and start to wear Tom out of cards. Surrender's goal will mainly in this game, due to his hand context, be about being strong against Spreading Plague.
Yeah, and you just saw on your screen Surrender's path to get to this point in the tournament. He defeated Omega Zero, one of the best players from China. He defeated Shanudachi, one of the best players from Europe. He defeated Frozen, one of the best players from the Americas. The only region left is Asia Pacific, so this is sort of his final test. And the cool thing about it is both of these players have been touted as the best in Asia Pacific for a very long time. So it's really fitting that these guys meet in the semifinals.
This really is, I think, like the final test for Surrender, so to speak, where he has been beating all the other regions, and that has been something that's consistent to him throughout this year's HCT. He's just had such brilliant performances, and every single time you see him play, it feels like he's getting better and better. And Tom certainly has his work cut out for him, because that's what he's been doing his entire career.
What to do?
That's right. He's already has that World Championship experience under his belt all the way back from 2014. And he said in a lot of his interviews that he felt like he disappointed himself and everybody from his region when he had a pretty rough performance. But now he's back, having a good performance here. And Tom's going to go with double card draw.
Yeah, his
branching paths.
His hand was quite lacking in substance after the Spreading Plague. And so he's got his eye on that Nourish for a couple mana crystals. He wants to pull far ahead, get substantial defense down, and then look to unlock the time to use Ultimate Infestation and the cards afterwards. The key to that is and the cards afterwards. That's where Surrender's going to look to try and punish Tom before that. Coin Cobalt Scalebane looking like it could do that, but that is a big draw for Tom right now.
A lot of times the sacrifice you make by playing Nourish for crystals like this is you get behind on tempo. And that's why Arcane Tyrant has sort of made its way to these lists, because these cards that get you behind on tempo, Nourish, you know, even Ultimate Infestation at times. Well, it's
oh, look at this. I'm very curious about that. That pressure seems like it could benefit Tom a lot. Maybe he's looking to see coin in a play from Surrender and then opt for it later on, like behind the Spreading Plague. If he plays it right now, the minions do just kind of run in. Like sometimes Backstab just gets to kill it with the Swashbuckler. And so his goal is to Spreading Plague, load the Tyrant behind it, and then use it to trade off something big.
Yeah, I think that's definitely his plan. He realizes that it could just die to coin Valspine Slayer, Spreading Plague, and then throwing the Arcane Tyrant behind it.
That is a brilliant play from Tom, and he gets to wipe out this Captain. And you can see it on Surrender's face, like, yep, that's what I was hoping would not happen. Wow, that is a brilliant display of timing from Tom, where it's not just the most pressure you can put on the board, but the timing of that pressure that is paramount.
Deviations from the norm. That's what we've been seeing so far in these couple semifinals. Definitely high levels of play. And Tom, almost to that ultimate infestation turn already as we come into like turn 5. So he's got a reasonable turn 9 lined up, which is something that you definitely want when ultimate infestation is on your mind, is coming soon. And now Surrender, the coin is gone. He's got backstab to couple with Elven Minstrel, but it is a loss of tempo when you go with Elven Minstrel. You're getting more resources, but you're giving up a potentially a stronger board position.
Yeah, Surrender right now, he's just looking for a way to solidify something that is difficult for Tom to handle. You know, seeing the Wrath and seeing Spreading Plague is a bit of information for him. He knows that Tom's going to come correct with something powerful on this coming turn. And so because of that, he just plays another 5/5 and says, all right, then let's deal with this.
Jade Idol pick up from Tom, just going to allow him to get these Jades up. But there's still a lot to be thought about in this play. Eye of Blackpaw, while I guess those Shades ramps, it's one of the most powerful cards. Also one of the highest win rates in the mulligan, which is weird for a 6-drop.
It's such a strong card.
Yeah. He thought about for a second, maybe Iron Will Golem challenges the board differently, but it doesn't. Eye is definitely better in that case. Tom's going to realize that.
Yeah, Tom even going to just trade off his Scarab here. Says the job's done. I have board position. I have ultimate infestation. I think I can win from here. Great use of his life total and to recognize that he no longer needs that defense because that's suited just in his aggressive position on the board.
Well, if there's any card you want to combo for Elven Minstrel, it's probably Prince Keleseth, since you buff the cards that you're going to draw. But a little late in the game, we actually ran the numbers earlier on this week, and the win rate of Prince Keleseth plummets when it's not played on curve by, you know, over 10% when you talk about it in that regard. So while it's good, the benefit of it comes from you playing those bigger minions early on in the game.
Yeah. Shout out to our friends over at HS Replay.
That's right. And now Tom has solidified a fantastic lead in this game, and Surrender's going to need to come with something creative to get him out of this one, because I just don't see a way.
It's going to have to be insane. Tom is coming correct with up to 3 more Jades next turn. He's got Malfurion in hand if he needs extra life total. Once he dumps his whole hand, he's already got the second ultimate infestation.
Yep. Even that, he can be free also to utilize, you know, if you draw a second Jade Idol, he can probably just play it, because most of the time you don't go to a scenario where you need to shuffle Jades in this matchup. It's not a fatigue scenario.
This is a counter pressure matchup for sure. I saw Surrender talking to himself. He's trying to find a way out of this. Well, we saw this a little bit yesterday when Sintolaw had stolen Jaina away from Frozen in the combo Dragon Priest versus Big Mage matchup. And for the second time, we see a Death Knight hero enter the opposing player's hand.
The question is that enough to sort of swing the tide in his favor? Because he may have control of the board for now, but the longer this game goes on, I feel the more Tom will have opportunities to just get these Jades out of control and control the overall state of the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think this is still an uphill battle for Surrender, but cards that Tom can't really account for can definitely change that circumstance.
I wonder.
And he's got to be precise here. Malfurion is very valuable when you get it online early, because then you start to benefit from it. But Tom realizes that he just sort of needs to play a smart game where you can test the board, and Malfurion may be too much of a loss of tempo for him to be able to do that.
Yeah, for now that is appearing to be the case.
My first instinct is Bone Mare, just because.
Because you have a Bone Mare.
Because
it's
it's
7 or more.
Mare.
You know, we said the longer this game goes on, the better it is for Tom. But Surrender, I mean, he has that Keleseth buff cranking now, so stuff like Corridor Creeper is certainly an awkward size for Tom to deal with when you get to a certain point.
Yeah.
It's not running over a 1/5 and then getting swiped away. It's not getting hit by ultimate infestation directly.
Choose soon.
And Surrender wisely cutting down the size of his board He'd rather have multiple big minions than a bunch of small or damaged minions.
Yeah, at this stage, it's so likely for Tom to you know, like have swipe and extra ways to deal damage that Surrender would just rather get the most use out of those cards possible, which is helping protect his big cards.
Ultimate Infestation, not really too much of an option here, considering he would have to, you know, discard a card.
This is looking like one of the opportunities where Tom can try and set up as strong as possible and look for landing that Malfurion. As soon as he's able to land that on a fairly clean board, he really gets out of the game much cleaner after that. So setting up this, another Jade here, clearing off the board with the aggressive use of swipe, this tries to set it up for that Malfurion. And Surrender is going to try as hard as possible to disrupt that at every stage and finds a second Vile Spine to help.
Yeah. Sort of where the name Tempo Rogue comes from. Always playing for tempo from a board where he looks pretty far behind.
Still so much defense left for Tom. Because he's got the Arcane Tyrant, he knows the 10 in hand, he can still play a card as well. So another big swing.
But now, double Oaken Summons still left in the deck for Tom, and he's drawn all of his 4-drops. So that card later on in the game is going to be just gain 6 armor. That may not matter.
I mean, we might be in a Shuffle Jade Idol game as well. I mean,
It rarely happens, but when you draw this many cards and the board is back and forth this much,
then it happens.
Sometimes it's a necessity.
Yeah, and this turn here for Surrender, this allows him to get the Malfurion online, I believe. I mean, that was his first instinct, and I would want him to go that direction.
And I want to keep an eye on Tom's reaction here when he sees Malfurion, because if he's been hand tracking, he knows that the card that Surrender just moused over is the random card that came from Swashbuckler. And he hasn't played it thus far. So Tom might be fearing that this is a high impact card, but is Malfurion enough to chop through? Because right now Surrender, his hand is decent, but Leroy has very limited use. Firefly, while it is buffed by Kels, that's a 2/3, is more of a combo activator later on in the game. So his hand really just doesn't have much big stuff left. It doesn't have as much substance.
I'm looking at clearing off the 3/3, and I'm curious if Surrender's making poisons here, or if he wants to try and protect Corridor Creeper and pressure it all. I imagine he's likely still in the business of trying to fight for board, and this is how he's going to fight for board, is with aggression.
Yeah, Poison Spiders has sort of been the go-to choice for a lot of players here. It's a really awkward card to deal with one swipe gone.
And you mentioned it, that card is just plainly 6 armor right now.
Gain 6 armor, buff your Jasper Spellstone. That's effectively what that card reads at the moment.
Oh, you have Malfurion, do you?
Well, so do I.
And that's going to buff up the Spellstone too. So that clears off the Corridor Creeper. Surrender loses that value. Hero Power clears off one of the Poisonous Spiders. Tom's weakest minion kills another Poisonous Spider. And it looks like he's going to be left with nothing on board.
And Surrender needs something big as a draw. But one thing about Surrender's list is that he doesn't have quite as much top end as some of the players we've seen in the field. He doesn't have Lich King. Edwin Van Cleave, though, that's quite large, but he needs to deal with these Poison Spiders, so we would have to hide it behind a Serenite Chain Gang, backstab one of them.
I mean, that's exactly where he's going. This is the... Oh, he doesn't. He has the Malfurion Hero Power.
Malfurion Hero Power, that's right. Not often a variable that we're used to having to worry about in Tempo Rogue. But this is a daunting task. Surrender's looking at Tom's health total and then looking back at his hand and probably thinking, how in the world do I deal 27 points of damage? Plus however much armor gain he still has left, which is Oaken Summons, Malfurion Hero Power.
Is eternal.
He knows he's still got the 2 Ironwood Golems somewhere in that deck as well.
Yeah. And that dread is setting in for Surrender as you see him just sort of take a step back and think, what's my best shot at winning this game? And that's building as big of a Van Cleave as possible and hoping it lives.
And more defense for Tom.
So Tom has to be thinking double Elven Minstrel gone. Not much stuff in Surrender's hand.
Double Vile Spine gone.
Yeah, is the board likely to get bigger than this? But Banjo, you get the best of both worlds. Nourish effectively costs 3 mana because you get the mana crystals back. If you draw some more Jade Idols, you just keep shuffling them and building bigger stuff.
Well, there's one. Make that
One.
2.
7-7, 8-8, 9-9.
Yeah, that's 28 power Tom just added to the board.
And now, without the dagger up, hero power.
25. Oh, that doesn't have charge. It
It doesn't have charge. Malfurion's claws do not count as
My
weapons.
thoughts are plagued.
Look at Tom. We saw him do that yesterday when he was in another spot like this, where his nose is open and he's just hoping his opponent doesn't have the right combination to kill him. Because this spot,
Wait. I think
the
Leroy Shadow Step hero power would have been lethal.
and I think that Tom forgot about that
Yeah.
that's 3
My
damage.
thoughts are plagued.
Because there's 12 damage on board, the hero power would be 15. The Leroy buff.
Wow.
Surrender taps out.
Rest now.
Tom
Counter
takes
pressure.
game 1.